Now, let me tell you what happened very recently, because I've always been supportive of the Death with Dignity groups, of which there are a number. And there's one that is called the Final Exit Network out of Georgia that I'm supportive of. And the law people in Georgia just very recently arrested several members of that organization, raided their homes, froze their assets because they call them a suicide ring. Now these are well-intentioned people who are only there to give comfort and ease to people in their final days. And I presume all that will wind up in the court somewhere. But there's no end, there's no limit to what the fanatics are willing to do to maintain their religious position.
Well, I think when it comes to the law, though, you have a little bit of a hypocrisy, because David touched on this a little bit, but you can pull the plug on somebody and remove artificial means of sustaining somebody's life, which is in fact causing them to die, but you can't give them an injection to ease their pain and perhaps let them go away. I think it should be left up to the individual. If the individual wants, to be kept on any sort of life-sustaining procedures or machines or what have you, they should be allowed to, draft up a living will and say, look, this is how I want the end of my life to go. If I can't make the personal decision myself, and if he or she is able to make that personal decision and says, hey, look, I'm in too much pain, I really just would rather let go, then why is it the role of government to tell them no?
And you did mention the documentation, and it is important for everyone to prepare proper documentation, living wills and powers of attorney that says, if I'm unable to make the decision for myself, this is what I want. But you realize that these documents aren't accepted by a lot of doctors and hospitals and, I guess, people in government. Well, I'm going to bring up something else I'd like to get your viewpoint on. It says, we oppose discrimination based on ethnicity or sexual preferences, which of course states our position that we really feel that our purpose in being here, maybe not our purpose, but our lifestyle says we need to live full, rewarding lives as we determine them to be, without interference from the outside, and so provided that in doing so we're not preventing others from also living their good lives. So we, of course, support the lifestyle that many people adopt or accept. How about you?
Well, I was asked recently what I thought the definition of a liberal was, and why I would even be remotely interested in being able to be assigned that particular label. And I said, well, I don't necessarily assign any labels to myself, but I did say, if you wanted to define a liberal, I think the best way of defining a liberal is someone who's respectful of all people and is also inclusive of all people. And because if you definitely look at people who are not of that particular mindset, they definitely fall in the more conservative categories, and they definitely are interested in excluding people. And I basically believe in this country that we were founded on inclusion, not exclusion.
Well, when you say that you are going to have a progressive talk show, you've convinced me. One other thing, I'll just see how you feel about it. Our organization has a member of our board of directors who is really an outstanding advocate for keeping intelligent design from being taught in public school science classes. And we're really proud of her, and she's written a book on that subject. In this state, the legislature unanimously, or almost unanimously, enacted the new Science Education Act, which allows science teachers in the public schools in their science classes to bring in outside material to supplement the scientific explanation of such things as evolution. It's thinly veiled, and because it's supported by the people who want to teach creationism, they want to sneak that into the public schools, and the legislature passed it, and our governor signed it, and now what do we do about that?
Well, it was a huge mistake. Well, first of all, electing Governor Jindal, but to have this legislation passed, I'm Jewish. I may not be the most observant Jew. I do believe in personally that there is a God and there is a intelligent designer, but it's not science. It's not science at all. It has no place in the science classroom. If you want to have a comparative religions class, fine. If you want to have your child learn about it in school, fine. And I find with many of these issues that have to do with injecting religious thought into the schools, it's done by people, who claim that they want their children to be able to do these things in school. In reality, their children are probably already doing these things, so most likely they just want to have other people's children be subjected to their point of view and being taught as being correct. And again, it's another example of people using government to promote their own religion. And I disagree with that. And the idea that some people will say, well, evolution is just a theory. And that's one of the biggest problems I have with people who discuss this issue is because saying that something is a scientific theory is a very powerful thing. It means that there was a hypothesis made, a lot of research done, peer review, and they'll say, oh, well, a theory can never be proven. Well, true. And Stephen Hawking said a theory can never be proven. It can only be disproven. But a theory can be viewed as correct if enough evidence is presented to support it. So I think I'll go with Stephen Hawking on that one.
Well, of course, gravity is a theory too, but I don't see anyone jumping off the top of a building to disprove the theory of gravity. We've got a minute or so just left, and I want to give the two of you an opportunity to say whatever you'd like to say about your radio show, and let people know what to expect and how to find you.
Well, we certainly would invite everyone to tune in every Friday from 5 to 6 p.m. on WGSO, AM 990, on your radio dial. We're certainly going to try to have interesting guests on every week, certainly politicians and newsmakers in the local community. Next week we have Arnie Filko scheduled to be on the show. He's going to be talking about transparency in local government and economic stimulus.
Very good. I want to thank both of you for being here with us, and I want to thank you folks who are watching our show and invite you to be with us again next week.